It's the final countdown. Da-da-da-dun-dun.
I successfully got that song banned from a high school auditorium.
What song did you get banned, Josh?
The final countdown.
One by Europe, right?
Yeah, it's the single greatest stripper song of all time.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Average Guys Pro Wrestling Podcast, episode 43. We are one above the answer to the life, the universe, and everything. So we've officially jumped the shark at this point, I think. As always, I'm your host, Zach. I got Josie here.
Hey there.
I got Josh.
Hi,
Josh.
everybody.
And I got the Hoff.
I think we jumped the shark way early.
And we have a very special guest today. He's too big for us now, so I don't know why he came. We did promote him first, but you may have seen him on various wrestling things. He was at WrestleCon promoting his game. Book it, the pro wrestling.
Way to botch.
It's the wrestling promoter card game.
The wrestling promoter card game. That's what I'm trying to say. We got Paul Laporte here. How you doing, man?
Doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Like I said, I'm surprised you came now that you're all super big.
No, for real. Thanks for coming. You're doing us a favor.
I'm up past my bedtime, but I appreciate the fact that I finally got to hang out with you guys. I've been wanting to come on the show for a while.
Oh, we've been wanting you for a while, so we appreciate you coming, man.
Absolutely.
So tonight we're going to let Paul talk about his game a little bit, and then we're going to talk about the Oil Rumble or Greatest Royal Rumble, whatever the hell you want to call it. I'm calling it the Oil Rumble.
The Wakanda Rumble?
Well, I mean, it takes place in futuristic Australia, so it has to be for oil.
Oh my god. Josh killed me. Oh god.
It's dying.
Oh yeah, also Chris is dying tonight, so
I
don't worry about that. Paul, you want to go ahead and just kind of give us the lowdown on your game real quick?
Sure. So I made a game that's called Book It, the wrestling promoter card game. It is a game for 1 to 4 players in which each player is an independent wrestling promoter, and they're trying to put on the best show that they possibly can. That's the object of the game. The game is split up into 6 turns. At the start of the game, everybody kind of picks what style of promotion that they want. So there's like lucha libre or strong style or sports entertainment, and that's kind of the goal of your promotion. That's the style that you're catering to. And then over the course of 6 turns, you are deciding what cities you want to run your show in. You're developing your local talent. You're signing independent wrestlers to your promotion. You're buying cards to help yourself, to hurt your opponents. You're planning out the show. You're getting money based on how famous the wrestlers on your show are. The reputation of your promotion is increasing based on how good the wrestling on your show is. And then at the end of 6 turns, the player with the highest reputation wins the game.
Nice.
It's on Kickstarter right now. It went up WrestleMania weekend. We had a goal of $18,000. We are currently a little over $22,000, so we've met the goal. So we are going to be producing it, and it's still got a lot of buzz behind it with 14 days to go in the campaign. So you can still check that out on Kickstarter, or if you go to bookitgame.com, that'll take you right there too.
Nice. Oh, and I do actually have to say something here, because I had Paul on my stream once.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, no, and I wanted to raise the $1,500 to be able to put Paul through a table. Because that's one of the rewards, is if you give the game $1,500, Paul will hand-deliver the game to you and bring a table, and will allow you to put him through the table.
That's correct.
My viewers seem to like you.
That's good.
Or they just don't
That's
like
good.
me.
Yeah, I think the thing I'm the most proud of is the fact that we managed to hit that funding goal without me having to get put through a table at this point. No one has taken advantage of those 2 rewards, and I can still make my game, so I don't need to put years off my life to try and get this thing made. However, it is still eligible if anybody does want to do that. Now at this point, it's just icing on the cake. But if you still want to do it, I'll drive to our yard. You can put me through a table.
Well, see, I was going to raise the money and have Filter put you through the table. He's our 7-foot monster at Primo's and New Era and Rocky Mountain
Yeah,
Pro.
I've heard of a couple people who've considered doing it for like promotions and having wrestlers do it. A couple of guys at the promotion I work for have joked about pooling their money together and doing it on one of our shows.
So I've listened to some of the other interviews you've done. They're more enthralled that you've made the game rather than like the mechanics behind it and how the mechanics kind of reflect being a wrestling promoter.
Sure.
Seeing as how we're all gamers and half of our audience is gamers, I want to know some of the flavor. I want to taste this game. That sounds creepy.
So I mean, I've tasted it. It's not very good.
I mean, cardboard generally isn't.
No, it's not. I mean, and the laminate, the gloss on it, it's not very appetizing. So the game, I really worked very hard to try and make everything about it flavorful. Right from the way how everybody chooses their style of promotion at the beginning of the game. Everybody does that blind, essentially. So everybody has the same 5 promotion types they can choose from, but nobody knows what anybody else is picking at any given time, and they all reveal it at the same time. So that's the idea that, well, in the territories you're operating in, you have a strong style promotion. Well, maybe somebody else does too, and now you two are directly competing for resources while having to try and fend off everybody else too, who are working their own unique styles. So I had that in mind when signing the wrestlers. It's the idea that there's 60 wrestlers you can choose from, but at any given time, there's only a marketplace of 10 or so. So it's the idea that these are the 10 wrestlers who are available at any given time. The other ones are on other shows or they're doing something else. And these are the ones who are present with you right now. And then in the dirt sheet and special announcement cards, there's things like, you can have an intermission raffle at your show that gets you a random amount of money. You can have a convention weekend where the marketplace gets wiped out because everybody's at wrestling conventions that weekend. So you have a new marketplace of people. On the bad side, you can have wrestlers miss their flights or get injured, or your ring can be broken, or your venue can be double booked. So there's a lot of flavor in those. And then when you're actually even planning out the shows, once you sign your wrestlers, you have them together in a little deck that's usually about, depending on what turn you're in the game, it's about anywhere between 10 to 20 cards usually. And then when you're planning out your show, it's drawn. You have a starting hand, so it's kind of a little bit of randomness to it, and that's to represent the idea that even if you get people to agree to work for you, they're not going to necessarily fit into your plans exactly how they want. And if you've ever been involved with the inner workings of a promotion, you'll know that happens, where it's like, okay, well, we've got this awesome guy, but he doesn't want to work with this wrestler, or this wrestler's already involved in the storyline, so we can't pair him up with him, or this guy's going to wrestle for our belt down the line, so we can't have him take the loss here and whatnot. So I kind of had that in mind when I did that. And then, the reputation, the idea that the better shows you put on, the more the reputation increases for your company. But also at the end of the game, you get reputation based on how much money you have left too. So that's the idea that you can either try and build a promotion that's focused around great wrestling and try and get ahead that way, or you can kind of forgo having really good wrestling matches and just have so-so matches and make a lot of money and then try and become the best that way. So I really tried to hit from a lot of different angles what it's like to run a wrestling promotion and the different ways you can get ahead and the different ways you can fall behind. You can use my experiences, not just from being a fan, but from being involved in the inner workings of independent wrestling to really make as flavorful of a game as I could. And pretty much every decision I made for the game was based around, does this sound like something that's equated to the professional wrestling scene in the real world?
So do you have like hundreds of notebooks just all over the place? Like, you take notes of like your experience, like, oh, maybe I can include it in the game this way, or maybe I can twist something around, or
no, it's just I have some stupid Rain Man-esque capability to store wrestling knowledge in my head. and I can just recall it at any given time. Or I also have a lot of friends too who will, recall things for stories. And I had a lot of people who gave me suggestions for this game and whatnot. I actually originally made the game. I was never really planning on making it into a thing. It was just I was going on a camping trip with some friends of mine who are independent wrestlers, and we always brought a bunch of card games and board games along because we all play those type of games. And I was like, I'm gonna make something for this trip specifically that's gonna pop my friends, and that was like the only reason I did it. And then I brought it, and everybody's like, "This is really good. You should do something with this." So it just kind of, it just kind of went from there, and I just kept kind of working at it and tweaking it. And then I got met up with the artist Alex Mahoney, who has done a lot of merch design for like pretty much everybody in the Bullet Club, like the Young Bucks, Adam Cole, Kenny Omega, the Briscoes, Marty Skrull. Leo Rush, like just a billion different independent guys, and she saw the game and she thought it was cool, so she put her talent behind it, and things just kind of went from there.
Dude, that's so cool. Like, just being noticed by somebody who's like big in the industry, and even just merch. Like, you had to be on cloud 9 when you got that phone call, text message, Facebook message, whatever, saying that she was interested.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had shopped around, so I reached out to her first, but I never really expected her to get back to me. Just because, again, like, she had done so many things, but I liked her style because I didn't want this to be like a real, like, gritty, serious game. Like, I wanted to have kind of a light tone to it, and the stuff that she did kind of had that, just built right in. And Alex is a really weird person too, because she was at the time this 20-year-old Australian girl who has like intricate knowledge of the 90s Japanese deathmatch scene. Like, she's just like super, like a super savant when it comes to the stuff, and all of these weird obscure wrestlers that I threw at her that some of these cards were based around, she knew immediately and was like, yes, I know that. I'll do right by that particular inspiration. So like, I really kind of hit the jackpot when she got involved with it, for sure.
So I got a question on that, because I mean, when you look at the like examples of the like wrestlers that are in the game that are available, they're always kind of like a parody almost of certain characters. Is there like specific characters that you always wanted to put in, or was it just kind of like what you thought would look the best for this specific card?
So when I started making the game, because the original prototype I kind of slapped together in like the span of 3 days. When I was sitting down, I knew I wanted to do like 15 wrestlers of each style, as far as strong style and lucha libre and hardcore and sports entertainment. What I did was I wrote down the stats for each of the card first. So I did, their star power, their work rate, how much they cost, because I wanted certain things to fit in certain ways. Like, I wanted hardcore guys to be cheaper but have less of a work rate because they're not traditionally good wrestlers. I wanted sports entertainment guys to have higher star power but cost a lot more. So I wrote out the stats first, and then once I had all the stats laid out, I thought through and was like, okay, what person in the wrestling world fits this category of statistics? And then I filled them in that way. So I kind of it was just kind of like the first 15 people in each that came to my head that I felt fit the card. And afterwards, I've definitely gone back and gone like, oh, why didn't I put this person in or this one or whatnot? So there's still a lot of people that I would like to, represent in this game for sure. But it was really... This was also in, mid 2016 too. So that's where, the culture was at the time, was kind of snapshotted by the wrestlers that are in this game and the stats that are reflected on those. So that was how I kind of came up with it.
2016, that means it took you only 2 years.
Yeah.
To get this thing put together and put on Kickstarter. Let me find the Kickstarter link real quick.
Sure.
I know I posted it on Facebook somewhere. But, sorry. No,
like I said, if you just go to bookitgame.com, it'll redirect you right to that too. So
perfect.
Yeah, and you have a Facebook page and like a Twitter and everything too.
Facebook, Twitter, yeah, we got that. I have my personal YouTube page, which I've used for some tutorial videos and things like that too. So
is it still on Tabletop Simulator?
Oh
Yep,
my
it's
God.
on Tabletop Simulator. So if you have Tabletop Simulator for Steam, you can play it for free. Also, in the Kickstarter page, there's a link to the print and play files as well. So if you want to check out the game and play it before you decide to put your money behind it, you can do that. You can just print out the stuff, throw it in card sleeves, and you can play the whole game without backing it.
That's how we discovered it, actually.
Yep.
We got together for a board game night on Tabletop Simulator, Josie, Zach, and I. And I saw it on the featured panel, and I was like, all right, what is this? And I approached it really skeptical. Like, nothing before has ever, like, captured the Mark essence, I guess, the Smark essence of being a pro wrestling fan.
Yeah, I mean, Chris and I both work at a game store, so we're pretty heavy into the gaming industry as well.
Yeah, and you mentioned, the capturing the Smark mindset or whatever, and that was another reason that I kind of designed the game the way I did, is because every other professional wrestling game I've ever played, and I'm not the first one, there have been others, there are others that are on the market right now, but the vast majority of them take the role of, you're a wrestler, your opponent's a wrestler, you're fighting to win a match. And to me, that wasn't as interesting, because wrestling is a competitive art form. It's a cooperative art form. It's not competitive. You're working together to put on a good match. You're not fighting each other. But there is competition in promoting. And that's the angle I wanted to kind of take it from. And it also allowed me to make it so you could do it with, not just 2 players. You could do it with 4 players. You could do it with 3 players. You could play by yourself and just try and get a high score. So I wanted to kind of do it so it had a wide range, and you could bring it to the table a lot, as they say. You can pull it out with just 2 people, with 3 people, 4 people, or even play it by yourself if you want.
Yeah. So one other question that I've kind of had for you for a while that I just never actually got around to asking you is, I mean, this is a deck building game, and that's kind of a popular thing that exists within the gaming community right now, because there's games like DC Deck Building, Legendary, right, Dominion, all those. Is there a specific reason you chose to make this a deck building game, or?
I thought the mechanics of deck building fit the flavor that I was going for the best, because again, it was the idea of you're signing wrestlers to your promotion, so you're always kind of bringing in new people, and but you still have your own kind of local guys that always stick with you. So this is a little bit different than other deck builders, because other deck builders, your deck is just kind of continuously getting bigger and bigger. In Book It, once you've played an independent wrestler, you've booked them on a show, they go back to the talent pool, because this is independent wrestling. You only ever really sign a guy for one show if they're like a name wrestler. You have your local guys who show up every month, but then you have the big names that you bring in, but you only can usually bring them in for a show because you can only pay them for one show, or their scheduling works for one show. So that was one of the reasons that I kind of decided to do it that way, and I modeled it around certain other games for sure. There's a lot of inspiration from other games that's in Book It. The promotions and the idea that certain cards, like you have one main card that's kind of benefiting you throughout the whole game. That came to me from Android Netrunner, which I've played a lot of, and the idea that your runner, your corporation card is kind of like your identity as to who you are, and also Raw Deal to an extent, your wrestler and Raw Deal. The venues were inspired by Raw Deal because those had venues in there. The marketplace came from like the Cryptozoic deck building games like the DC one and the Street Fighter one, where it's a common randomly generated grouping of cards that everybody is choosing from. I got it from that. So it was really just kind of a mixture of, I felt it suited the flavor of the game the best, and also it was just inspiration from other games I played.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the game. Like I said,
It's
Chris
really good.
Chris gave us the game. Chris printed it off, and we played it a couple times, just at random events that we've been at. It does take a little bit of time to play. It's not one of your quick games.
Right. Yeah, it takes about 60 to 90 minutes depending on how many people you have. It's definitely not a party game. It's not I've heard a lot of people describe it as being complicated. I would say it's lengthy, but the actual rules themselves, the rule book's only about 9 pages, which if you're a hobbyist of board games, is not very much. If you're somebody who's never played board games before, you may take you a couple times to pick this up, but it definitely has a strategic element to it. My friends who are very good at games like Magic the Gathering and other card games tend to do well in this game. If you played it for a while, the strategy and you can kind of develop. There's like meta games that have developed in different play groups. So this is this is a game that definitely has a lot of flavor to it and is kind of for the wrestling smarks for sure. But I've also had people who just like board games who have never watched wrestling in their lives before play this and go, this is just a solid game. And that was one of my goals too when working on it.
Well, it's funny too, because
I know we've played it with a couple friends of ours who aren't wrestling fans at all. I mean, I know that me and Chris personally have played it with a friend who probably has watched maybe one wrestling match his entire life.
Josh.
And said it was... Yeah, it's the Josh that's on this podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like even he enjoys it, says it's a very solid deck builder. And I think deck builders are honestly my favorite style of game that are lying-based games like Sheriff of Nottingham.
Like the Resistance
like
and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I love those
Right.
games. Sheriff of Nottingham and Coup are probably two of my favorite games, and those are very lie-based. But that's just my personality. I like to lie in games.
he likes to lie in real life too. Don't listen to him.
Yeah, Chris, did you know that my dad works at Nintendo?
Holy shit, that's a humongous lie.
Oh man, is he gonna give me that cheat code to move that stupid truck?
Yeah, there's a view under there, man.
Dude, give me that cheat code. Like,
I'll give it to you off camera because
Oh my god.
yeah, we can't let the listeners have that.
Anyway, I want to see if I can. What I was trying to say before is I do also appreciate, and I know a lot of other people will appreciate this too, is that you don't necessarily pull back the curtain with this game either. Like
what do you mean by that, Chris?
Yeah.
You don't like straight up tell people that this is completely fake.
No, I mean, there's definitely there's elements in there. The idea is, as I've always kind of taken the view of professional wrestling that, it's, people use fake as a dirty word, and
Right.
it's like it's no. I think people give it a little bit too much power. When they get all upset when people call pro wrestling fake, like yes, it is, but who cares? That's fine. You can call it that. And like I said, that's the thing with this is like, I am pulling the curtain back a little bit because, this is like winners and losers don't matter in your wrestling matches. There's a card in there called "You're Being Worked." Like, there are definitely like insider terms in there. But I've always kind of really, that was, once I started to learn about kind of the inner workings of pro wrestling, that is what made it interesting to me. So I'm not going to really like belittle it or treat it like something that's not important. It's just kind of looking at it from a different angle. I'm not looking for like a takedown of pro wrestling or anything like that, because I love this. I have no reason to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, in the kind of short time that we've gotten to know you a little bit more. But like, I've noticed that a lot of people who have interviewed you about the game, people like Brian's, and they didn't really like talk to you as a person, like what you do, because you work for a wrestling promotion, right?
Yes. I work for a promotion called Truly Independent Wrestling that's based out of Lanesboro, Massachusetts, which is on the western border of Massachusetts. It's actually like an hour east of Albany, New York. So it's kind of right on the border of New York and Massachusetts. So I've worked for them. Prior to that, I've done different things. It started actually with IWS in Montreal, Canada. I did ring crew and security and some other small jobs for them in 2005, when guys like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and PCO, who's having a resurgence now in his career, which I think is totally awesome, when those guys were there. So I got to kind of get behind the scenes, in the inner workings of that. pretty early on, when I was like 20 years old or so. And I've kind of just done little odd jobs here and there because one of my closest friends, kind of trained to be a professional wrestler and went from being a referee for IWS to doing his own wrestling on the Northeast scene to the point where, he wasn't really happy with the companies he was involved with. So he just decided to start his own. And when he did, he tapped me to help him with the writing and some of the on-camera stuff. So yeah, I've done a little bit of everything. I've been involved in different parts of the independent scene for about a decade or so now, a little bit more. So I definitely took those experiences I've had and the knowledge I've gotten from that and put it into this game and just in what I do and how I interact with pro wrestling in general. Like I said, I'm a very I have a lot of respect for it. I have a lot of love for it. It's my favorite art form, which I really think it is. People call it, everybody refers to professional wrestling as the business. And yeah, okay, it is a business, but to me, it's more an art form. It's a way to tell stories. And that's the way I approach professional wrestling, is that I always try and look for the most interesting story to be told at any given time. That's my approach to booking. That's my approach to making a game like this. And when I watch professional wrestling, that's what I watch it for, is to see who's telling the best stories.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not too long ago, when we were playing Book It together for the first time, you told me a story. It was a real blood and guts story, and you told me how you had to take someone to the back.
Yeah, so
can you tell that story for us?
I guess I can tell you some of the IWS stories.
Yeah,
a couple times I had to either fear for my life or somebody else's life. So I had a couple cool stories. I'll start off with the tame one, which is one of my favorite stories. Is that I was punched by Lufisto, who Lufisto is one of the pioneering North American women's wrestlers. She's still working in Shimmer and Shine and places today. She's an amazing wrestler. If you don't know who she is, look her up. She's incredible, and she's been working forever. She has a victory over Kevin Steen in CZW back in the day, just to give you an idea of her kind of clout or whatever. So we were part of an angle, and I got punched by her, so that was fun. I always like to tell that story, and I'm going to be working with her again in a couple months at TIW, so I'm really excited about that. But I had a story I had a incident where it was a light tube match, and one of our wrestlers, the Green Phantom, severed an artery in his arm.
This is the story.
He got a light tube cabin put on him, which is like a square of light tubes stacked on a square of light tubes, 3 or 4 high. And his opponent did an Arabian facebuster, like Sabu does, a leg drop with the chair underneath him on top of the cabin. He pins him. They pin 1, 2, 3. He immediately jumps up, rolls over to the ropes. His arm is pouring blood everywhere. So we're all kind of panicking. One of the wrestlers who was doing color commentary takes off his dress shirt and his belt, and we use that to try and close the wound or stop the bleeding as much as we can. So we get him to the back, and I'm the biggest guy on the crew. I'm 6'1", and this guy's 6'4", 6'5". So I just was kind of tasked with helping him with the paramedics. And we're getting him onto the stretcher so we can get him into the ambulance. And the paramedics are screaming at me in French because we're in Montreal, and I'm I don't speak French. And the promoter's he's American, and then they're okay, we'll lift up the gurney, and then we get him into the ambulance. So
you should have Josh with you. Josh is Canadian.
Is he French Canadian? Otherwise, it wouldn't work.
I don't know, Josh. Are you French Canadian?
No.
There you go.
The one time you'd be useful.
So that was another incident. The last kind of story I like to tell is we did a spot where myself and other members of the staff body surfed a wrestler above our heads while another wrestler, Viking, jumped off of a balcony in a bar on top of all of us. And I remember just holding this guy up in the air, and I'm I'm in Canada. If I break my leg, I'm screwed. I'm in another country. This could go so badly. Why am I doing this? I'm getting paid $20 Canadian to be here. And then he just came down on all of us. We just kind of splattered apart, and it came out totally fine. But yeah, I got to do a lot of really fun things for that promotion, and I've done some good stuff since, but I don't think anything that's quite as wild as those stories when I was first involved.
That reminds me of the story where Vince McMahon is sitting on the trash can. He's just thinking to himself, well, this could be really bad. At WrestleMania, what was it, 22?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, this could go very, very bad. And it was like the first show that I took my then girlfriend, now wife, to as
Oh.
well. So she just got to see me be a complete idiot, for nothing essentially, just because
Well-
I wanted to do it.
I mean, if they see the worst of you, and they still want to be around you,
Yeah, she stuck around, so it was good.
congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you.